Hello, everyone. This is Jewel Nov, and today I have with me Dr. Nate Gershfeld. And Dr. Gershfeld has just opened a fasting escape retreat center, and that follows, I believe, the same concept that Dr. Goldhammer has in True North. But the good thing about Dr. Nate is he understands and speaks a little bit, I guess, Russian, which is great for our Russian community and the patients. Thank you for joining us. And I would like to start with the story. I always like to start with the story. So what is your story? How did you come to this plant-based and fasting lifestyle and made it your career?
Well, that's a good question. Большое спасибо. Я хочу что-то говорить по-русски сперва, потом I'll go back to English. So большое спасибо за приглашение на этот веб-семинар. Это замечательно, но не удивительно, что есть русская группа, которая заинтересована в здоровье и с голоданием. Очень рад я быть здесь и хочу сказать вам, что я могу говорить по-русски, я могу понимать по-русски, но это недостаточно, чтобы провести весь семинар по-русски. И хочу спросить, если я могу перевести на английский, когда я отвечаю на вопросы.
Однозначно можешь. Вы говорите намного лучше, чем мои дети. Просто удивительно, какой хороший у вас русский язык. Но да, в этой группе мы говорим и по-русски, и все в основном понимают по-английски.
Обязательно.
So feel free.
Great. So, yeah, my story is I'm a son of two immigrants from Russia. And growing up, my parents would never let us eat junk foods. It was mostly homemade, home-cooked foods. But when I went off to college, and even when I was a kid growing up, I'd always find a way to sneak out and get some junk foods. And when I was a kid, that's what I would do. I'd go on bike rides, go to donut shops, and eat all kinds of stuff. I never had a weight problem, but I ate plenty of unhealthy things. Fast forward to college, my third year of engineering school, the doctors found a little lump in my neck, a tumor in my thyroid. And they found an autoimmune disease called Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and they found hypothyroidism. And being the stubborn, kid that I was, my mom was always saying, go to the doctor, figure it out, go to the doctor, figure it out. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. All they have to offer me is surgery, drugs, that's about it. And it could have been something more serious. Luckily, it wasn't. But I went off I kind of went off the normal path to find out what do I have to do to get it better. So I tried different herbs, I tried different supplements, I tried different colon cleanses and herbal cleanses and mushroom cleanses and everything under the sun that I could find. And of course, I didn't have any clinical experience. This is all just me reading in the library, going to conferences, going to seminars, and going to different trade shows and reading things on the internet. This was before YouTube, so there weren't as many videos on health and wellness as there are now. But at that time, everything that I tried it never did a lot. It never made a lot of sense. And I remember clearly there was one herbal cleanse. This is kind of the last thing I ever tried. There was one herbal cleanse that required that I sit in a bath of very hot water with mustard seed, ginger root powder, and cayenne pepper in the bath. So here I am, like sitting in this webinar. In this bathtub on this webinar that I looked at, and I'm sitting there. My skin's burning. I'm thinking all my toxins are going to come out in my tumor, and my diseases are going to leave. And the final step of the process was you have to wrap yourself in this ice cold sheet, this bed sheet, prostin. And so I'm sitting there. My skin is burning. I'm wrapped in this sheet, and I look up at my grandmother who had helped me through this process. And I was thinking I have to sit there and sweat all the toxins, and it's like 2 hours in, and I'm burning, I'm miserable. And I thought, so I guess this is what health feels like, huh? Wow. And The problem is that they were missing this big key thing that I found out eventually as I wandered my way into True North, which is that health is the result of healthful living. And what I was searching for was magic in all the places that I could possibly find. And the magic that I was searching for was, if I just found the right pill, if I just found the right herbal supplement, if I just found the right colon cleanse, if I just found the right bath treatment, if I just found the right combinations of these things, I could flip enough switches and health would result. And that was a major mistake in my thinking. And I was able to cover enough ground to read Dr. Lisle and Dr. Goldhammer's book, The Pleasure Trap, and eventually get an internship with Dr. Goldhammer and follow him around and get some clinical experience. And I eventually interned at the center and then became a staff doctor at the center. And now I have my own place. And the fundamental insight that Dr. Goldhammer relayed to me and Dr. Lisle relayed to me is that health results from healthful living. There's no magic buttons. There's no magic pills, potions, powders, or supplements. So we have to do the right things in order to be healthy. And so when we're not feeling healthy, that's a signal that we should get back to the fundamentals of clean diet, sleep, exercise, sunshine, laughter, appropriate response to stress, a loving social circle, clean air, and fasting when necessary if those things aren't coming together.
There is one question we have. Was that cayenne pepper protocol, was that Schultz?
Yep, Dr. Schultz's Incurables program.
Yeah, I know. I see some people trying his protocols, and yes.
It's fascinating because when I was following all of his protocols, he had amazing information about how all the different organs work and how the detoxification mechanisms work. And he had all these different tinctures, the cayenne pepper tinctures, the lung tinctures. For every organ, you had a tincture. But he himself at that time was obese. Oh. And he recommended a raw food diet and lots of juice and water. And he had most of the things right. I really thought that he has his 24 steps, 24 steps of healthy living were actually fantastic. But it was all cloaked around the fact that you had to buy these herbal supplements to get your body to work. And the truth of the matter is that your body has all the appropriate mechanisms to heal itself. We just have to set up the right conditions and eat healthy food, sleep right, get enough sunshine. We don't need to be buying all these things to make your body work. Your body, the situation in your body is normal is healthy. And anytime we deviate from normal, we're not going to be healthy.
Agree, totally agree. So what happened with your lump? Were you able to cure it?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting thing. The medical doctor that I had said, you're crazy. If it is a serious cancer, then you're going to be dead in 5 years. We didn't know what it was because I refused to let them stick a needle in there and poke the hole in the tumor. So, which nowadays I know was a mistake. It's probably a good idea to see what's going on. But what happened was the first fast that I did, it shrunk by about 50%. Oh, and by the way, in the 6 months or so that I was trying all these little potions and pills and supplements and everything like that, my tumor actually doubled in size.
Oh.
So that was pretty scary because conceptually I kind of understood that I was doing the right things in terms of trying to get healthy, but something was missing. And I remember the day where I was on some raw food diet or some cleanse or whatever, and I was craving steamed broccoli and steamed carrots, which was off the program that I was doing. And I thought, that's interesting. That's not normal to deny yourself steamed vegetable. That's a perfectly healthy thing. And that was kind of the realization that there's something more to it. But yeah, sorry, I got sidetracked. So the answer to your question is the tumor eventually got about 75% smaller than its original size. And then I stopped checking because I couldn't be bothered. And then the autoimmune disease, which is measured by blood tests, which is antibodies for your blood or for your thyroid, that reversed. So I no longer have detectable levels of thyroid antibodies. And my thyroid function is within normal limits as well. And that I follow up with every year.
So you're saying that by doing fasts and sticking to whole food plant-based diet, you basically cured your hyperthyroidism.
Yeah. I was lucky that I wasn't on medications at that point. A lot of the patients that I've seen who have hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's are able to reverse their conditions if they eat healthy enough for long enough and they fast long enough. and they do this in a supervised control setting so that we don't run into electrolyte problems. We don't run into other medical problems that are serious if you fast too long. Now, so yeah, what we want to stay away from is saying that there's cures. There's no cure for diabetes. If you go back to eating terrible food, your diabetes is going to come back. There's no cure for high blood pressure. If you go back to eating salty, terrible food, it's going to come back. There's no cure for all these problems. What this is a management strategy. The management strategy is we eat healthy, we sleep well, we exercise, we do all kinds of other healthy things, and we fast when necessary. And the symptoms of those unhealthy lifestyle goes away.
Yes, thank you. But before you want to said that, well, you said you were eating a pretty homemade food
at home.
Oh, at home. And then
my mom hates to hear me say that.
When did you switch 100% to whole food plant-based diet?
This was about 13 years ago.
13? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Were you in kindergarten?
No, I actually wasn't born yet.
You look very, very young.
I promise. That's a temporary condition. So I'm 34 years old, and I started this journey when I was my last month of my 20th birthday, or my 20th year.
Okay. And you tried all the different protocols, like raw food diet before. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tried all kinds of different things, and I think it's useful for people to try certain things just so they kind of have peace of mind that something was something maybe they had a burning desire to try. Mm-hmm. But let's keep in mind, a lot of these things cost a lot of money, which I ended up spending a lot of money on. It costs a lot of time. And so the more serious somebody's health problems are, perhaps it's no time to joke around and try certain things that aren't going to work. If people really want to try certain things, hey, why not? But the truth is that what's really going to make a difference is diet, sleep, and exercise, and fasting if they need to do that.
At the conference, Dr. Lyle spent quite a lot of time talking about the importance of the sleep. Mm-hmm. And I do have a question from one person about it. Does it really matter when you get those 8 hours of sleep? Like if the person goes to bed around midnight or even later than that, and she still gets her 8 hours sleep, she just wakes up later. Is it still okay, or is it not so?
Yeah, I think it's fine. What you're going to want to do is get blackout curtains so that they can remove all the daylight from your room if you're going to be waking up later than when the sun comes up. Because the problem is your eyes are designed by nature to detect daylight. And when they detect daylight, it sends a signal to your pineal gland, and that starts to release certain hormones and stops the release of certain hormones to get you waking up again. So if you go to bed at 12 o'clock and you're going to be getting 8 to 9 hours of sleep, and you're going to be waking up about 9 o'clock, but you got a bright bedroom window and the sun comes up at 7 or 8, you're actually going to be having less quality sleep in those last few hours.
Okay. Well, I have my in-laws, they used to work night shifts, and they would come home in the morning and go to bed and shut the windows. They had like shutters. They live in Germany, so they always have those really, really dark shutters outside of each apartment. And but still, they was telling me that had affected negatively their health because of that sleep time shift.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If we're talking about a difference between going to bed at midnight versus going to bed at, say, 11 a.m. That's a big difference, because there's something to do with the circadian rhythms that I'm not exactly, I don't think we're exactly sure yet. But yeah, there is an issue with going to bed past the more normal night times. There really was never a reason for our ancestors to go to bed at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. on a consistent basis. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes you can have people who are going to be working graveyard shifts, it's going to be hard to get those 8 to 10 hours of sleep in the middle of normal daily life. So yeah, it's something where if you're working a graveyard shift, find a way to get out of it, because your body's not going to thank you.
Got you. There is another question from a person. She is a raw vegan, and she just did a 10 days fast at True North. And she's asking how long you suggest to fast. How often can a person fast? And can she do it on her own?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of people, they do a fast at True North, or they do a fast at Fasting Escape, and they're thinking it's so easy and it's so like, you just feel a little bit unpleasant, a little bit tired, that why not just continue it at home? And the problem with that is the reason why it's easy and comfortable at a place like Fasting Escape or True North is because there's doctors around supervising you. We're monitoring your blood work. We're monitoring your urine. We're monitoring you, checking in on you every day. And if things don't go the way we want them to go, we will break the fast immediately. At home, you've got nobody monitoring you. You don't know what's going to happen. If you fall and hit your head, nobody's around. If you've got people around, nobody's really clinically qualified to supervise you. And so a lot of things can go wrong. It's actually dangerous to fast on your own if it's more than 3 to 5 days on water. Also, if someone's on autoimmune conditions, we don't know what their situation was with medications. Now, if they did a water fast at True North, then chances are that they weren't on medications while they fasted. However, when you get back home, we don't know what the situation is. So what I'd say is that if you're looking to do another water fast, give me a call. You can schedule that at fastingescape.com, and we can do a quick phone consult and see if a fast this close after a 10-day fast may be beneficial. If not, then we build you up by having you eat a lot of good, healthy vegetables, steamed greens, potatoes, rice, beans, starches, lentils for a few months, get you built back up. Then we can come in and do another fast. The length of a fast for autoimmune conditions can depend. I've seen people as short as 1 to 2 weeks of water fasting, they can reverse an autoimmune condition. Some other people can take them 3 or 4 weeks. So it's highly dependent on the person's body constitution, what they've been eating in the last decade or two, what the progression of their disease is like. So if someone just got diagnosed with autoimmune disease and they've been eating absolutely terribly, that means there's a lot to improve and there hasn't been a lot of damage done. Whereas if somebody's eating really clean and they have had a disease for 20 or 30 years, it's a little bit different. Okay, so everyone's going to be responding a little bit different as well. So again, it's highly independent. I'd say schedule a consultation with me at fastingescape.com, and we can go over the individual differences and see if that might make some sense to do a fast.
I'm going to write down, I'm going to comment with your link to your facility. And by the way, tell us about this thing. From the brochure I got at the conference, it seems very clean, very nice. And I see that you have, like, at True North, there are people sharing rooms, and your facility seems like everyone gets a separate room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at the Fasting Escape, it's a much smaller, intimate setting than True North. So it's about 10 times less the size, 10 times smaller. It's a 5-bedroom house, and 4 of the bedrooms in there are available for guests to come for a program. And every room has a private bedroom and a private bathroom inside the room with a walk-in closet. And this is where guests can stay. The rooms are big enough to hang out, the whole time. It's a 2-story house. And so after a few days of water fasting, people are usually content with staying in their room the rest of the time. There's an office where people can come and relax and hang out and maybe do some work with their computers. And the rooms are big enough, and there's a couple of chairs. There's the chair in each room, so that if people wanted to hang out together in each other's room, it's certainly possible. But the point of a fast is to heal and to rest as much as you can. And so we're not really trying to make it a social environment more so than we're trying to make it a restful, relaxing, and peaceful environment. There is a meditation room for people who enjoy a practice of meditation or yoga. There's a yoga class once a week with a wonderful teacher who everybody raves about. We have cooking classes once a week. I give a couple of talks a week. The radio show that Dr. Lyle and I do, I broadcast it live every Wednesday when we do our show together. And once a month, Dr. Lyle comes down here and does a live talk. So it's much more easy on terms of the much more light in terms of the classes and documentaries and schedule of events. But the accommodations are very nice and very pleasant, and it makes fasting a little bit less miserable. Because fasting can be pretty intense, pretty miserable, especially as we're detoxifying and withdrawing from all the effects of the unhealthy foods that have snuck into our bodies our entire lives. And so we just try to make it a little less miserable.
So I just had a thought. So we can just rent the whole house. If it's like 8 people, we can just rent the whole house and socialize there and fast all together.
I mean, if everybody is able to fast, so everybody who comes in here, I have to talk to them because I want to make sure that it's actually appropriate for them to fast and do the program. But yeah, if people wanted to come and rent out all the rooms, then it's no problem. You just be your particular, programs.
Cheers with water, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. We have 3-course meals here. We have hot water, lukewarm water, and regular temperature water. And then for dessert, sometimes we have some shaved ice.
And I assume it's all distilled, right?
It's a reverse osmosis system.
Oh, you have a reverse osmosis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole house has a reverse osmosis filter. And also, what we do in this house too is not just fasting. Patients, when they're finished fasting, they have to gradually reintroduce to a healthy diet and lifestyle and learn how to do this at home. And so every person who comes and stays here stays for half the length of their fast after they're done fasting. And that enables them to gradually refeed, make sure that they're clinically stable. And we show them how to eat healthy and how to make some of these foods at home so that when they get home, they kind of know what to do. That was one of my turning points, is going to True North and thinking that I knew kind of what I needed to do in terms of eating salads and carrot sticks and jicama sticks and celery and this and that. But I didn't quite know exactly what a typical 2 or 3 days worth of meals felt like. I personally just can't eat the same thing every day. So it was like, okay, am I going to eat this every day? But going to a center where they're actually showing you and people are eating with you and the food actually tastes pretty good, that actually was a really big turning point in terms of how I was supposed to do it at home. So we try to provide that same experience here where people can actually come here and they see what it's like. And then when they get home, not only have their taste buds readapted from the fast, so now the food actually tastes pretty good. Now they actually know what they're supposed to do when they get home.
Yes, the taste buds do readjust and open up. I can't believe that while at the conference, how much food we ate, and it all tasted so good. And it had no salt, no oil, no sugar, it was so clean and so tasteful. There is one person has been on a plant-based diet for about a couple of years, and her joints start bothering her. Is there anything that you can suggest why it's happening on a whole food plant-based diet?
Well, I'd have to look at it individually. Joints typically don't hurt on their own unless someone's getting much older, they've had a traumatic injury, or they've had a history of a previous trauma to that particular joint. And unless they have a very particular little genetic issue where they're starting to get symptoms of arthritis, in which case we kind of look at all the different possibilities. And if it turns out that she's been diligently following a whole foods plant-based diet and she's still getting some joint pain, perhaps it's time to come in and do a fast and see if a fast can actually help the body heal itself. It's nothing that we look at as a guarantee. It's that when we don't, the philosophy is when we don't know exactly what's happening, we focus on doing healthy things as much as possible, and we watch it to see if the body can overcome this. But it's also useful to, I don't want to give advice over a webinar for someone I haven't met or examined, but it's useful to have somebody, to talk to and examine this to see what's going on. But joint pain usually doesn't come up from nothing. Okay. It's usually coming from something, whether it's, there's been a little bit of a deviation from the diet, or there's been injuries, or there's a disease process that's starting to happen as we age.
Okay. Back to the water distill. We got a question if you can recommend the home distiller.
Yeah, I actually think that they're all pretty good. They're all in generally pretty good. They're not that there's not that much difference between the few of them. The one I use at the house is a reverse osmosis filter, and it came with the house, and so I didn't actually go out and get another one. So reverse osmosis, distilled water. When before I had this center, I would just go to the store and get the jugs of distilled water. But if you can spend the $1,500 for a distiller, that's perfectly fine as well. It's going to be probably cheaper over the long run than getting the gallons of distilled water. Once in a while, fasters, as they keep fasting, their taste buds get pretty sensitive. And they can actually taste, if you've been storing water in plastic jugs, they can actually taste some of the residue from the plastic. And so if you're going to store your distilled water, store it in glass jugs like we do here. So every room has gallon jugs in the rooms so that they store their water, and we refill them every day to make sure that the water's fresh and that it's not tasting bad.
That's a great idea, because I only drink distilled water at home, and I buy the plastic gallons from the Whole Foods store, and then I store it in the plastic, and I always worry about the plastic versus the distilled water, the goods and bads. So I guess the glass jar will work. I just have to find the huge glass jar.
Yeah, you can get a few of them. I'm not that worried about it, just because most of the plastic now, especially the hard plastics, are BPA free, or they're so hard that you can't actually leach it. It's if you start to microwave things, then the plastic will leach into the water, or into the Tupperware, whatever container you have it in. So I'm not that worried about it. Plus, if you're eating a pretty healthy diet, a lot of these things can go away. But yeah, if we want to minimize this, we want to minimize the plastics and all these other things.
Okay, it's like AJ says, majoring and minor.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. The biggest issue is eating a diet full of fruits, vegetables, potatoes, rice, beans, lentils, nuts, and seeds in some moderation, and eating the majority of your diet this way, drinking pure water, getting enough sleep, and exercising. If after you do all that, you're still having problems, then you start teasing out the little minor things of all the other things.
Yeah, got it. Have you heard of this diet that is popular, right? Well, we had talked in our group just recently, yesterday, about the fast mimicking diet by Dr. Longer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you have anything to say about that?
Well, I'll say this. Dr. Longo has done a phenomenal job at bringing some of the questions, bringing answers to some of the questions that we've had about fasting. So because of Dr. Longo's work, we now understand some of the more intimate mechanisms of fasting in the molecular level. And so he's done a phenomenal job for putting this research out and really getting grants to get more of this. I think that said, that there remains an issue in the human diet and in the human population of what to do after you're done fasting. And that is, do we go back on the calories that we're normally eating? So just to give you an idea of what the average American eats, 90% of their calories come from animal foods and refined carbohydrates. Okay, so let's suppose that we were going to do any type of fasting program or fasting mimicking diet for a good length of time and reverse our disease. And then we go back to eating that. It's not going to be long before we're going to get all our diseases back. Okay. So when we look at all these little diets and mimicking diets and programs, we're going to get back to, let's not look for magic. Okay. A fast is a therapeutic tool to let the body rejuvenate, recover, and most importantly, to get the taste buds sensitive enough so that a health promoting diet actually tastes good enough to follow. A fasting mimicking diet The goal is not to do that. The goal of a fasting mimicking diet is to get your laboratory numbers to mimic the laboratory numbers of fasting. So in my perspective, it's a different thing than doing a fast and a health promoting diet. And so that's not my expertise. That's not what I'm after. What I'm after is people who need some assistance to get back to eating a healthy diet and living a healthy lifestyle without having to buy programs every 6 months or every year or everything like that. Once in a while, people, they like to explore. The very highly open people will want to try this diet, then this diet, then this diet, and this diet, and this diet. If that's the case and they don't have health problems, be my guest. No problem. It's not going to hurt you. But if you're going to be trying to get healthy and we don't have time to waste because maybe your doctor told you that you have high blood pressure, or maybe you have diabetes, or maybe you're overweight and you're just sick of looking overweight, that's when we want to get serious. And we want to mimic our way back to health. We want to actually do it right.
Yeah, makes sense. Anything about keto diet you have to say?
Yeah, keto diets, again, a keto diet is essentially an Atkins diet rebranded. And I can see that people who try keto, they're very, very concerned about their health and they're very fastidious. In fact, it's very difficult for people to stay on a keto diet. It's actually ranked as one of the more difficult diets to stay on because they're so restrictive. And it's also going against every single cell in our biology, which is we have to eat carbohydrates to survive. And so the people who are able to follow a keto diet, they're very diligent. They're very interested in being healthy. The problem is it's not sustainable. It's hard for your kidneys and it's bad for your arteries. And it's going to be filled with people who are trying to get healthy fast. They're trying to find the magic again. Okay. So maybe people are very overweight and they're fed up with it and they just want to get done with it, lose the weight, and then go back to living a lifestyle that they're used to. Well, that's the people who are going to try to find a very quick fix. Okay. That's what the Atkins diet was originally branded with: lose weight fast, eat all the foods you love and still lose weight. You know what I mean? We're starting to find these gimmicks that are going to be all over the place. The truth is if you want to get healthy, it's not going to be an easy thing and it's not going to be done quickly. It's going to be done through consistent, sustained effort in the right way, in the right direction. And it's going to be done consistently so that you're not going to be yo-yoing back and forth and back and forth. And so we do this with a health promoting diet where we're creating our environment to be healthy. So you're making your healthy food, your salads, your steamed vegetables, your starches, your beans, your brown rice, if once in a while, if you can just smoothie, whatever, but you're going to be consistently eating a healthy diet. And that's what's going to enable you to lose weight and reverse some of these diseases. No other diet in the history of humanity has ever been shown to reverse, prevent, and treat as many problems as the plant-based diet, okay? Or plant foods diet, I should say. Okay, keto doesn't have a candle to this. No other diet can hold a candle to this. Okay, so we stick to what works, not what's the newest fad.
Yes. Had a question about some numbers. Some people have. I have a person who just had her blood test done, and after doing the fast, the cholesterol went up.
Yes, that's perfectly normal. Yeah, as you fast, your cholesterol is going to go up, okay, as your body's mobilizing its reserves. So it's very normal for people to have cholesterol that's higher right after they fast. That's why we don't take blood tests for cholesterol until a couple of weeks, maybe 6 to 8 weeks after fasting.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I'd have her stick to a health promoting plant foods diet for another 6 weeks and then retest it. Her cholesterol is going to be fine.
You think it takes about 6 weeks to cholesterol go back? Yeah,
it could take long. It could take shorter than that. But just for, instead of taking a blood test too many times, unless if cost is not an issue and you just want to track this thing, have her continue to eat the diet and take a blood test every 1 to 2 weeks, and you're going to watch the cholesterol actually go down.
Okay, I see. Thank you. Another thing, it was the question about red blood cells are larger than normal, a little bit larger than normal. And from my understanding, it's usually because of B12 deficiency or folic acid deficiency. But in this case, both numbers, the B12 is in normal range. And alcoholism or like liver damage. And in both cases, the thyroid blood test didn't show anything wrong with thyroid, and the person doesn't drink. So what could be an issue here?
Yeah, this is a really good example as to why we can't piece this thing together with just one symptom, which is her blood cells look bigger than they're supposed to. So there's a lot of possibilities there, including the ones you mentioned. And I'd say for her, she should go to her doctor and actually have them work this up. It's something that we can't possibly answer over an internet connection. I would have to look at her blood tests, her history, examine her, talk to her. So that's something I would recommend going back to the doctor for. Now, about B12, okay? If you want to check your B12 status, you check methylmalonic acid. It's a more reliable indicator of B12 status. And if you're going to be vegan, then you want to be checking your B12 every year just to make sure that you have a reliable source of that. Either through a supplement. B12 is normally available through unwashed fruits and vegetables. That's how our ancestors got it. And it was synthesized in our gut bacteria. Nowadays, because we wash our fruits and vegetables, we also don't get parasites and bacterial contaminations because of this. And so the downside is we don't get a reliable source of B12. So if you're going to be vegan, you want to be getting a B12 supplement and taking that every day and checking your blood tests every year.
Well, it's very hard to find a doctor because my doctor, I have to find a different one, because when I asked him that I want to check my omega-3, he said, "What do you mean omega-3? That's a pill. This is just a vitamin you get at the drugstore, and that I don't know such a test." So I was pushing him, telling him that yes, there is a test, and I need to check it. And I want you to give me the referral for it. And even when I went to get my test done, my blood test taking, I had to personally find the insurance code to give them, because they never heard of it. So it is very hard to find plant, and especially plant-based doctors. Mm-hmm. Do you know any doctors in the Bay Area or in San Francisco? Because we have a lot of people who live in Bay Area and around San Francisco and in California. And the only one I know is Dr. Ornish, and it's very hard to get to him. And Dr. Goldhammer, that's where I usually go. I take my papers and I go to True North and ask him, what does it mean?
Yeah, the best medical doctors I know are in True North in the Bay Area. They are at True North Health Center. So you can schedule. I don't know if they, I don't know what their situation is, but you schedule an appointment with them. Go to True North Health Center for these medical doctors if you're in the Bay Area. Down here in Southern California, there's Steve Lawenda, there's Heather Shankman, there's Roy Artal, there's Renee Thomas out of Loma Linda. There's a lot of different doctors out here, but they're not common. It's not common for doctors to want to institute diet and lifestyle measures and to check. And so yeah, it's not easy, but it's changing. 13 years ago, there was nobody.
Right. But do you take private patients?
Yeah, I take private patients in my chiropractic practice. Most of my energies is being spent now at this fasting clinic. And so if someone needs a doctor to follow up with them, I'm a chiropractor. I'm not a medical doctor. So if you have medications, I can't really manage those. But you can email me at drnathan@fastingescape.com, and I can see if I can recommend to you a couple of the medical doctors in the LA, Orange County area that know what they're talking about.
Oh, that's very helpful. That's going to be very helpful to many. Another question we have is, what are your thoughts on pure fruitarian diet?
Okay, fruitarian diet, just for the people who don't know what that is, that's a diet that is made up exclusively of fruits. And this is where people eat nothing but fruits. And it's not uncommon for people to be eating 20, 30 bananas a day, sometimes 10 or 20 different melons a day. Not a very good idea for the following reason. Okay, now there's actually nothing wrong with eating a bunch of fruits for a couple of days. That's actually very normal. Sometimes people just don't feel like eating anything other than fruit for a day or two. But if we start doing this for 2 years or a year, we start to run into the following problems. So let's kind of back up the camera and look at something called calorie density. Okay, so calorie density is how many calories a food has per pound of food. So basically how dense the food is. So if we look at something like salad, raw vegetables, those are 100 calories per pound. Okay. And so if we look at something like oil, coconut oil, olive oil, whatever, it's 4,000 calories per pound. It's 40 times more concentrated. So I want you to picture what's more biologically valuable to us. I'm not talking about health. I'm talking about biologically in terms of calories, maintaining our weight. Okay. It would actually be the oil, because we don't have to search around and expend as much effort to get the calories from oil as we would from salad. So the average person, if they need about 2,500 calories per day to survive, the average male, average female, maybe about 2,000 calories, they need more than 20 pounds of salad. Yeah, that's a lot of food that you have to go around and risk your life to go find in the age of our ancestors. Fruits are 300 calories per pound, which means you have to go and get 8 pounds of fruit to get enough food. Okay, so what happens is if you're eating only fruit, then you're eating so much food that doesn't have a lot of the minerals that vegetables have, and you're getting a high sugar diet. Fruits have protein in them, they have fat in them, but it's not enough to sustain you. Okay. A strawberry, for example, has about 3 or 4% of its calories from protein. A banana has about 2 or 3% of its calories from protein, if I remember correctly. But it's very low in fat. It's very low in protein. We're actually not getting enough of these very important essential nutrients. And so I'll just tell you, in my clinical practice, I've seen 2 people in my practice who are pure fruitarians, and they had diseases that you don't see unless you're working in Africa. Deficiency diseases. Okay. And so they had rotting teeth, they had balding hair was falling out, they had skin problems, they had all kinds of different issues. They weren't getting enough calories. It's very difficult to get enough calories. Now, I've met a lot of pure fruitarians who say that they're fruitarians, but most of their diets actually, they're in principle, they want to eat fruits and fruits all the time, but they're actually eating not just fruits. Okay. That's going to be a difference. Okay. So if someone's eating only fruit and they're being very fastidious about that, they're going to run into problems. I don't recommend it.
What about raw?
What about what? And it's a very excellent way to do maybe a raw food diet for maybe a month, maybe a week, or maybe a couple of days. There's a challenge for raw food, and that is to get enough calories. Okay, so if you were only going to get raw vegetables, you have to eat 25 pounds of raw vegetables. If you were only going to eat raw fruits, you'd have to get 8 pounds of eight pounds of fruits. And the other raw foods are nuts and seeds. Mm-hmm. Okay, if we're going to eliminate the oils from the raw food diet, and we're going to say it's a whole foods raw food diet, then now what we have is we've got 3 categories of food that we can eat from: raw fruits and vegetables, raw fruits, raw vegetables, and nuts and seeds. Okay, nuts and seeds are anywhere from 2,200 calories a pound to 3,500 calories per pound. So Most raw vegans that I've met, it's very difficult for them to eat and spend that much time eating salads and nothing but salads and smoothies. And as a result, they eat plenty of fruits and a heck of a lot of nuts. And so what that represents is a high fat, high sugar diet, which doesn't seem that dissimilar from a standard American diet. Okay. So in theory, it's actually, it's not that bad. And it's pretty good to eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. And that's what we want to stick to. But if we start to only restrict ourselves to raw fruits and vegetables, it actually becomes a big problem in terms of just the practicality of it. And so that's why when I see raw vegans that are having health problems, we try to see, okay, are we getting enough of the minerals? Are we getting enough calories in general? And then we start to work from there. But a lot of raw vegans that I met, they stay raw vegan for the most part, and they're just happier that way. And they're happy eating their raw vegetables and the smoothies. And that's totally fine. I think it's, as long as our health is where we want it, then we're perfectly fine eating what we need to.
Okay, thank you. Can we just speak Russian a little bit more?
Absolutely. I'll do my best.
Russian. Немножко. Просто хотелось бы еще поговорить о твоем... расскажи, как ты питаешься? Вот твой каждый день, что ты ешь?
Я здесь в клинике, то есть я кушаю, что пациенты кушают. И когда они не голодают, это for breakfast, я не знаю, как сказать oatmeal по-русски, но это oatmeal with fruits. Второй, когда я в основном, я кушаю, когда я голодный, и я перестаю кушать, когда я не голодный. То есть sometimes I can eat 3 or 4 meals, sometimes I can eat 1 meal. It just depends on how I'm feeling. But in general, it's oatmeal and fruits for breakfast, some sort of salad, steamed vegetables. I really like cauliflower and Swiss chard, so I just eat a lot of that. And then I have some sort of baked potatoes, baked sweet potatoes. I really like corn on the cob, and I eat some sort of rice dish or something like that. So it's kind of a like we ate at Chef AJ's.
Yeah. Were you ever overweight?
No, I think I had like a year or so where I was really eating off the diet and I gained a little bit of weight, but I never had a weight problem.
What about food addictions? Can we talk about food addictions? Have you seen any people or any of your patients are dealing with the food addictions?
Yes. Yeah. Food addiction is a very real thing. And it happens as a result of the modern environment, where you'll never get addicted to broccoli. Okay. You're never going to sit there and crave eating 2 pounds of broccoli in one meal, but you can get addicted to adding soy sauce on it. Okay. You can be getting addicted to eating cupcakes or burgers or French fries or potato chips. You know what I mean? And so what we see is, what's the difference between the burgers and French fries and the broccoli? The difference is they are an artificially stimulated source of calories, artificially created. So while the broccoli is 100 calories per pound, the burger can be upwards of 2,800 calories per pound, depending on what's on it. And so that's going to be way more dopamine, way more than naturally was ever available. And so it's actually signaling to us that it's biologically valuable. Okay. So it's biologically valuable in terms of calories, but it's not good for our health. And so this is the big problem with food addiction, is that we don't need to learn how to eat less burgers, because we're not going to unlearn it. Okay. We don't need to learn how to not binge on the junk foods. For some people, it makes sense to not eat them at all and just stick to eating as much as you can of the whole natural foods. Okay. In this way, we don't have to worry about addiction, because those foods, it's not possible to get addicted to those foods. Mm-hmm. Now, one thing that fasting does is it breaks the cycle. Okay. Whenever we have an addiction, the first few days of not having the particular substance can be very, very difficult. In the case of drugs, it can be extremely difficult. In the case of food, it's unpleasant. Okay. You can be eating something salty, something sugary, something oily every day for 20 or 30 years. And the thought of not having any of it for 3 or 4 days is like sometimes too overwhelming. But if you do it, all of a sudden the 4th day does not seem that bad, and the 5th day not seem that bad, and so on and so forth. And so what a fast can do is break the cycle and give you some momentum, some much needed momentum to get back on to a health promoting program. A lot of the patients that I have here at the Fasting Escape are here for this reason, is they know what they need to do, which is to eat a healthy diet. And it's just not that easy to do in the modern world. I'll tell you, if I wasn't having this clinic, I'd have a struggle eating healthy all the time. Okay. I think some part in my mind, I started this clinic so that all the patients here could keep me on track.
I totally hear you. I think that's why I started my group, so I can stay consistent with my eating, with my whole food plant-based lifestyle, because the people that around you, who you surround yourself with, they keep you going, right?
It's harder than people think it is. You know, anybody who's listening, who's tried to get on a healthy diet, knows that it's incredibly difficult, and chances are they've tried it many, many times. And so it's useful to know that, and it's useful to know that even people who try multiple times, they have to do this consistently, and they fail and try and fail. I don't actually think that's failing, though. I think this is part of the process. You know, the average cigarette smoker, it takes them 30 tries on average of serious quitting before they actually takes hold. And so this is like a that keeps turning and turning and turning. If you keep turning it, eventually it'll catch. And then once in a while it slips and it keeps going and going and going, and it wears the gear, and then it catches again. And then we keep going. We got a good momentum going. Well, what a short fast can do for people is break that cycle, get them back on track. And after they fast, they have a few days of good, healthy food, and they come back home. And now all of a sudden they've got the sleep that they need to catch up on. They've got the momentum. They've got the willpower. They kind of know what they need to do. And they've got this boost in their energy. And a lot of patients have emailed me after they've stayed here, and they're like, wow, like I get home and I'm like pumped. I can get back on the saddle. I'm no longer sleep deprived. I've got the willpower. I kind of know what I need to do, and it's very enlightening to hear, because it's nice to see that there's somewhere you can go, you know, to do this. Yeah. I used to go up to True North whenever I got in a bad rut. I'd go to True North, do a short fast, and then come back, and it was like reset me again. And
then you need the group support to keep on track.
Yeah, that's why we have groups like yours. The group. This is why we have this. Is we've got all kinds of support for this.
We have few minutes for a couple of questions here about the psoriasis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, psoriasis. What you want to do with psoriasis is if you can come up and fast. I've had a lot of cases with very good results with psoriasis. We have to get you on a healthy diet before you come and fast, and that is you want to be avoiding nightshades for the most part. You want to be avoiding gluten and dairy and animal products. That's kind of to start. If that can usually be enough to take away some of this psoriasis. But if it's not enough, then you come up and fast, and maybe in a couple of weeks of fasting, this may get rid of it. Okay. So
fasting, you would recommend. How often?
That would be depend on the person. I don't recommend fasting on your own. I'd recommend doing it in a controlled setting with doctor supervision, because there's a lot of symptoms that can come up that are not going to be good symptoms that we don't want to continue the fast. There's also no way to check baseline data if you're doing it on your own. For example, if you start fasting and your blood pressure drops, how are you supposed to know if you're not checking? Okay, if it drops to dangerously low levels, if it shoots up to dangerously high levels, which indicates you might have some kidney problems. How do you know if you didn't take a blood test to see if your kidneys are normally functioning? How do you know if you didn't take blood pressure beforehand? So there's all these little nuances clinically that's why we don't want to be giving a lot of advice about doing a fast on your own, because you really have to do it under a supervised setting for safety reasons.
And for psoriasis, even the patients with psoriasis, do you treat them they come to fast to your place for how long usually?
It depends on the person, but we're probably looking at a couple of weeks,
Couple of
depending
weeks.
on the individual. Yeah,
So
that's a couple of weeks of fasting.
okay. It's
A couple of
not
weeks
a
of fasting.
3-day fast.
No. We can't expect to reverse 30 years of a problem over 3 days. If we could, then we would, but we can't, so we won't.
Do you personally do a fast?
Oh, once in a while. Yeah, I do a fast when I need to do a little reboot. If you eat pretty healthy, you don't need to fast as much.
So there is no schedule for yourself, like every quarter or every year?
No, it's when I can.
Okay.
Yeah, it's when I can. Every once in a while, I'll wake up and I feel a little bit under the weather. So I'll fast that day and it usually goes away. I think 6 months ago, maybe a year ago, I got something really bad. I wasn't eating that great. I wasn't sleeping that great. And I ended up doing a 6-day fast, kind of forced because I wasn't hungry and I was feeling really bad. I got kind of sick, but that cleared up pretty fine after that.
Last question. Do you drink?
No, I do not drink at all.
Not at all.
Makes dating challenging, but oh well.
Oh, so you're single?
No, I have a girlfriend. I'm having a girlfriend, but that was one of the things that we really liked is that we both didn't drink. So
yes, that makes it much easier.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, I want to thank you for your time. I have your brochure here, and I'm going to put your. I understand that you take consultations, so anyone can call you and schedule a free consultation with you at any time.
Yeah. To schedule a consultation, you want to go on my website for fastingescape.com and go under registration. And there's a program there where you can schedule a good day and time, and we can discuss what your needs are and if going to a fasting escape makes sense for you.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you so much for joining me and answering all the questions. And thank you for coming to our group. And I hope you stay with us. I'm not kicking you out. Maybe we'll have more questions for you later on. And yeah, I'm very delighted to have you in my group and in our community. And thank you so much for all you do. We have a lot of people in South California, and I personally would love to come and visit your place as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, sure. Thank you. Bye.
All right.